The good folks at Comics for Fun and Profit have been doing 2 episodes a week for quite some time now, and it's all thanks to, first of all, Jason, and second of all, our patrons who allow us to add the space on our server, broadcast more, store more, share more with you, the listeners. I'm envious of those of you who have unlimited storage and media server capabilities. We pay for ours here at the C4FAP. It ain't cheap. We thank you so much for those of you who go to patreon.com/comicsfunprofit and contribute at any level to say thanks, to say, I want to be a part of your Slack channel conversations. I want to get exclusives. I want to get early access. I want to get ad-free access. I want to get swag. I want to get some free stuff. Whatever your reasoning is, we appreciate it at any level because it does make a difference. So from the bottom of Kyle and I and Jason's heart, thank you for contributing.
Aloha, it's Jason from Hawaii. Welcome to a special edition of the Comics for Fun and Profit podcast. In this episode, I will be interviewing comic book creator and Harvey Award nominee and Eisner Award and Inkwell Award winner Andrew Pepoy. He is here to promote his latest Kickstarter, Simone and Ajax, What's Black and White and Red All Over. I love the pun in that because red is spelled R-E-A-D. I love it. That's great.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah.
Now, this campaign is live and will end on Thursday, July 13th. This project is already fully funded. Mike Myers and I have already backed this campaign on the first day it came out. And it also got the Kickstarter stamp of approval of projects we love. Andrew, welcome to the Comics for Fun and Profit podcast. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing pretty well. Just keeping just hustling to keep this Kickstarter moving and going, while at the same time going to conventions and at the same time drawing a mini series. So it's busy, but it's good. I'm actually liking being this busy again.
No, that's great. That's great to hear. Now, Andrew, I'm going to go over some of your incredible work history, because you have been in the comic. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You've been working in comics for the last 34 years.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yep. Okay. Yep. About somewhere around the 4th of July will be the 34th anniversary of my first professional job.
Wow, it's going to be pretty cool. I'm going to go over some of your work, and please feel free to correct me at any time.
Sure.
Now, I know you've done some newspaper comic book strips. Correct me I believe for the Chicago Tribune. Is that correct?
For the Tribune Media Syndicate. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so it runs in papers in various parts of the world, but they're the ones who distribute it.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Now, you did the Little Orphan Annie, and then back in 2000, you kind of like did a redesign of Little Orphan Annie back in 2000. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, they decided to try something a little new, and got talking about it. And it sort of helped that I live here in Chicago, where the Tribune Media offices are.
Mm-hmm.
So they were able to have me down to the office, and they were like, well, let's play with Annie a little bit, try to figure out what we can do with her. And I still didn't have the job necessarily, but they were talking to me because at first they wanted me to imitate Leonard Starr's style, who'd been the previous artist on Annie. Mm-hmm. And then they saw some of my Simone and Ajax stuff, and they were like, well, can you do something like that? So we're going something a little bit more my style. And then they were like, well, let's update the look a little bit. And so right there in that meeting where we were all sitting around at this table, I did a doodle of Annie that's that they were like, yep, that's it. So that's how I got the job.
That is so cool. And also too, if I remember correctly, you still have an unpublished last comic strip where Little Orphan Annie literally flies off into the sunset. Is that correct?
Well, yeah. Well, yes, it is unpublished. It's not finished though. I mean, the writer Jay Mader had written a final week, because when I was going to leave the strip, for various reasons, they were going to actually end the strip, and Jay wrote a final week, and I'd sketched out in my sketchbook that final week, but at the last minute they found Alan Kupperberg to take over the art on it, so we never so the writer rewrote that week, and So that script is out there somewhere. I'm sure. I don't think I still have a copy of the script, but it's somewhere in one of my sketchbooks. I'm sure I do still have, those rough scribbles I did for that last week.
That is so cool. And then in 2019, another newspaper comic strip that you worked on was the Dick Tracy Minute Mysteries. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. So Dick Tracy is still running. And Joe Staten had been the artist on it for a number of years in recent times, and I'm friends with Joe. I worked with Joe on Scooby Doo for 10 years, and Joe would take a vacation twice a year off the strip, and instead of like working himself like mad to get ahead on it, what he would do is he would bring in a friend and to do a 2-week short story run on it. So the writer would still be writing it, but he'd have a guest artist for 2 weeks and call them the Minute Mysteries. And so I did a little guest run on that in 2019, where we ended up bringing back the character Friday Foster because we had access to the entire Tribune Media library of characters, and they had a lot of strips, Terry and the Pirates and Smiling Jack and all that stuff. And we I'm known for drawing women, and so we're going to come up with a character like that. And because the writer at first said, "Oh, do you want to draw Annie?" And I was like, "No, I've done enough with Annie." And then he was like, "Oh, how about?" And then I was like, "How about Brenda Starr?" And he was like, "How about Friday Foster?" And I was like, "Yep, that sounds great." So Friday Foster had not appeared in any in any comics since like 1974 when her strip ended. She was the first Black character to get a excuse me, a mainstream newspaper strip.
Yes, and then also too.
Oh, go ahead.
Because also when I just did a little bit of research on Friday Foster, the other thing, the amazing thing was that there was a comic book movie adaptation in 1975 that starred the very lovely Pam Grier.
There was. I only just recently got to see that.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I have to track down that movie.
I'm sure it's streaming somewhere. That's how I found it. I found it on the Criterion channel streaming.
Wow. Okay. I really have to check that out. Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm going to continue on, Andrew. So, okay.
No.
You were an inker on the Simpsons comics for 18 years. You've done work on Sonic the Hedgehog. You worked on Archie comics, especially the Betty and Veronica. Kathy Keene. Am I pronouncing that one correctly?
Katie Keene.
Katie Keene.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wrote and drew that for Archie Comics. She isn't really part of the Archie universe so much, but she is one of their characters, and had been my mom's favorite character. My mom's favorite character when she was a kid. And so when Archie suggested, "Oh, do you want to bring back Katie Keene?" I was like, "Sure." And and so I again, once again, it needed to update it a little bit to make it work for the time. But I tried to keep it as true to the spirit of the classic Katie Keene as I could, because I knew I'd hear it from my mom if I didn't.
Yes. Yes. I'm going to ask, because I know, like you said, that was your mom's favorite character when she was growing up. What was your reaction when you finally saw your name on that comic book?
What, on Katie Keene or just any comic book?
No, on Katie Keene.
I mean, it was great because it was really nice because it was a rare chance for me to actually write and draw something. I mean, like you said, I'm best known as an inker. I started inking in 1990 for Malibu and Marvel and DC in 91, and I was so I've done a lot of inking: X-Men, Fables, Iron Man, you name it. But it was I had never planned on being an inker. It was not I sort of fell into it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to gripe about that. I mean, it made me, it supported me and made me a living for many, many years. But I always wanted to write and draw my own comics, and this was another step, toward in a way doing that. It wasn't my character, but I did get to write and draw my own take on it.
Yeah.
So it was just great to see it out there, and it's still in print.
Yes. And then I'm going to ask, what was your? No, I know that was your mom's favorite character, and also too, it was also your one of your auntie's favorite characters. Is that correct?
Yeah. My aunt was also one of my aunt's favorite characters. So like when they were kids, my mom would buy I'm trying to remember who bought which one who, but like one of them would buy the other one a subscription to Katie Keene for Christmas, and the other one would buy the subscription for Little Lulu for the other for Christmas, and then they'd have Katie Keene and Little Lulu comics every month.
Yes, that's so cool. So what were their reactions when they finally saw your name, or even that you said, "Hey, I'm going to be working on this," the Katie Keene book. What were their reactions?
Well, they were excited about it. They were very happy and excited about it. My family's very small, so basically, I have an aunt and uncle. That's it. So it's like, it's not like there's like a ton of them, but the few of us that there are, they've always been very supportive. And so they were very happy to see me doing that. And like, when I was trying to prepare how to do it, I talked to both my mom and my aunt to find out what made Katie Keene special to them as readers, as kids, when they were doing it. Because I wanted to catch that spirit of it. Because I'll be honest, I hadn't read a whole lot of Katie Keene before the editor to do it. I had picked up a few, like my friend Bill Morrison, if you know who Bill is, one of the Simpsons artists, painted the Little Mermaid movie poster. He had sort of tried to get me into some Katie Keene comics. So when this came along, I had the few that Bill had talked me into buying, but I hadn't read a whole lot of Katie Keene. But how can you get a better view of what makes Katie Keene work than from someone who was a kid reading it back when it was a classic comic?
Yes, that's so cool. That is so cool. Thank you very much for sharing that, Andrew.
Sure.
I'm going to continue on because another one of your works is Big Max. Now I know it's an audio, so listeners, I found this Big Max #1, written by Dan Slott, art by James Fry, and then Andrew inked this, and it's a #1 issue. Yes.
Yeah, no, that's one of my favorite comics I've worked on. It was just I love fun comics, and that one was just ridiculous and fun, and it was something that almost didn't happen, and actually was shelved for a long time before it got rescued and published. So yeah, and Ty Templeton did the cover on there as well. So
yes,
I was lucky. I got to work on a lot of Dan is a big superstar writer now.
Yes.
But I was lucky to get to work on a lot of Dan's early stuff, and Dan always wrote all these really fun adventure type comics. And so yeah, with Big Max, it's like the rest of the world's human, but Big Max is this masked, superpowered gorilla, and in Secret Identity, he's also a talking gorilla, but he wears glasses, and somehow that protects his identity. Even worse than with Superman, it's like, okay, there's a masked, superpowered talking gorilla, and the only other talking gorilla is this one wearing glasses, and yet somehow no one ever puts it together that he's Big Max.
But
it's just a silly comic. It's just a very silly comic. I enjoyed it. A lot of fun. And James Fry is one of the most underrated pencilers in comics, and I love inking his stuff. It's so dynamic, so energetic, and just this great style, this great sheen, like almost this sheen to the pencils, and so it's always a pleasure to ink James. He's one of those guys who I don't know why he's not a star, but he should have been. Yeah.
And then finally, I'm going to wrap it up with Simone Ajax, that has been nominated for a Harvey Award for special award for humor, and also it had a very successful Kickstarted last year called The Adventures of Simone and Ajax, Lemmings and Tigers and Bears. Oh my!
Yeah, that was. Oh, go ahead.
No. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, yeah, no, that was my first Kickstarter, and it did pretty well. I was very happy with that. And it got them back out there, because I hadn't done a new adventures with them in like 12 years. There had been, these characters have been around for over 30 years. I actually drew the very first story of them back when I was in college in 1989.
Yes.
And but then spent several years just talking about doing more with them, until Rob Walton, who you might remember from Ragmop or Grendel and Bloodlines, and he was doing his Ragmop book, and I had met him at WonderCon in like 1994, and he said, and one day he calls me up and it's like, hey, I've got 4 pages I need to fill, why don't you do a Simone and Ajax story? So it finally got me off my butt and actually doing a Simone and Ajax story, and that sort of kickstarted, although it had nothing to do with Kickstarter, kickstarted the Simone and Ajax black and white comics in the 90s. And I ended up doing a bunch of stuff with them from 1994 through about 1999, and then I did one last black and white story with them in 2004. And when I decided to start doing Kickstarters, I thought, okay, let's start with something brand new first. So what you saw that last year, Lemmings and Tigers and Bears, is an all brand new 128-page full color book of new Simone and Ajax stories. And now the thing about Simone and Ajax, let me interrupt myself and say, okay, as my usual spiel on Simone and Ajax is, if you're looking for anything deep and meaningful, this is not it. But if you are looking for sort of a strange buddy comedy about a 20-something girl and her best pal, who happens to be a 3-foot-tall cartoony dinosaur, who I can send to any time or place I feel like sending them, with cheesy jokes, groaningly bad puns that you'll hate yourself for laughing at, and lots of lemmings, this is your book. And say in that book, there was a pirate story, a Old West story, a story where they go to Transylvania and end up facing a vampire and a werewolf and a Frankenstein monster, and more. And as there's a lot of always and more in my comics. And then finally a Simone and Ajax private eye story, because Ajax likes to pretend he's a tough-talking 1930s film noir detective, puts on his fedora and narrates his adventures, And it's just totally silly, ridiculous comics. And that's the thing. The world needs more silly and ridiculous, and some good jokes these days. And I'm hoping I can help bring them. So anyway, like I said, last year I thought with my first Kickstarter, let's put out something new.
Yes.
And so then I mentioned all these black and white comics that I was doing in the 90s. Well, those had never been collected. They were supposed to at one point. So I actually had done a lot of the prep work on this book like 12 years ago. Didn't happen. And once again, I decided, okay, I'm just gonna make it happen myself this time. So now that's why I'm doing this new Kickstarter for the Adventures of Simone Ajax. What's black and white and red all over, and it's 160 pages, so it's a good-sized book of all of the old vintage black and white Simone and Ajax comics that people would have seen in various anthologies like Negative Burn and Mythography and Arrow Anthology and stuff like that. Plus, I'm also adding in a lot of Christmas mini comics. And for my holiday card, I a few times went and did an entire mini comic adventure with them for the card. And most people haven't seen those. Those only went out to family, friends, maybe anyone in the business I knew, and so most people haven't seen those at all. And as I was digging through old boxes of stuff, because I'm trying to put all this together. And of course, after 30 years, things can get a little disorganized. I thought I'd only done 5 mini comics with them, but it turns out I did 6. And so I'd completely forgotten about one of them. So there's going to be all 6 Christmas mini comics, plus a variety of other cards I had done back then, and various other art from that time period, like T-shirt art I had done for convention programs or things like that. So I'm going to collect as much as I can all together in the one book, leading up to their very final story. Like I said, I pretty much stopped doing them around 99. I got busy with Orphan Annie and other things, but I did one last story in 2004, and I thought I was going to be doing another story with them right away, so I left it on a cliffhanger. And in the end, that is where the Comic Mix IDW series that ran on Comic Mix in like 2008 and 9 and was published in a paperback by IDW in 2010. That's where that picks up for the first color Simone Ajax stories. So in the end, you've got 3 volume. You'll have Lemmings and Tigers and Bears, which there's a 3 on the spine, and so people are going, "Where's 1 and 2?" Well, now I'm doing book 1. Now I'm doing book 1, and the IDW book long out of print, and so eventually, hopefully, like end of next year, I'm hoping I'm going to do a Kickstarter to reprint the IDW book, but this time in hardcover. So you'll have a nice 3-volume set of everything with Simone and Ajax, and then I'll do more.
Yeah, no, that is so nice. Okay, I'm gonna since we're already talking about Simone and Ajax already, I'm just I am just gonna just jump right into the Kickstarter, because like we're talking about it, it's already live right now.
Right.
Right?
And as of today, we reached the first stretch goal, so it is now a hardcover.
Oh, that's nice.
That was what I wanted, and I sort of, I wanted to make it all, all three. I wanted to make all the volumes hardcovers and nice, really nice packages, and so yeah, as of this morning, we passed 14,000, which means it's now going to be a hardcover, and so now we're on to the next stretch goal, which is to get some spot gloss varnish on the cover. And then after that, the final one will be to have the final, well, not the final stretch goal, final sort of printing, production boosting kind of thing will be the, I'm hoping to get custom end papers, because if you ever got to see the Lemmings and Tigers and Bears book, it just was a nice touch that really made it feel like a good book to have these, really nicely custom printed color end papers. But yeah, for anyone who's trying to like find out here, they're like, people are probably sitting here wondering, but where can I go look this up while you guys are talking about it?
Yeah.
There are several ways. One, you can just go to Kickstarter and search my last name, Pepoy, Pepoy, and all three Kickstarters I've been involved in will pop up. This one is what's black and white and red all over, so you'll be able to find that. And then, or you can go to my website, pepoy.com, and the first thing that'll pop up is both the scrolling page and a pop-up will be there to give you the link right to the Kickstarter. Or you can go to SimoneAndAjax.com. So Simone spelled out SimoneAndAjax.com. And that'll be the same way. First thing you see on the website will be how to back it. And for anyone who's listening to this after that date, and you're thinking, oh no, I'm listening to this on July 14th. What do I do now? There is a buy books button on the site, up in the top right, you'll see a buy books button, and that will tell you how to get whatever books I have going at that point. So like I have an Indiegogo in demand page, which operates sort of as my shop. So right now you can go to my Indiegogo in demand page and find Lemmings and Tigers and Bears. You can still get that, or you can go to the Kickstarter and get both the new book and buy the old book as an add-on. And when this campaign for What's Black and White ends, I will be building a new Indiegogo in demand page that will offer both books. So go to Indiegogo and search Pepoy, or just go to, like I said, just go to pepoy.com and click on the buy books button, and that'll give you the newest information on how to get these books.
Yeah, and then also too your history of your work, who you are, because I've checked the website out. It's great. There's one part of your web, if I remember correctly, I think there's one part of the website. We will talk about that a little bit later.
Sure.
Yes. So, okay. All right. So, I'm going to, the thing I'm going to say, and thank you for sending me the link. Thank you very much. I was able to look through some of it,
for the comics.
Yes. Thank you very much. I love this. It's great. Because first off, Simone and Ajax, they're buddies.
They are.
And the thing is, I just buy. They're just buddies. Yeah,
it's not a girl and her pet. It's two friends.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about it. And I love that their adventures are lighthearted. It's clean humor, and it's fun to read. It's great. Because the first story I read, I love it where it looks like they were in a restaurant set in the 1930s. That's what and I remember you see someone off panel going, "Hey, you got a light?" And Ajax is going, "I'm a dinosaur, not a dragon." I loved it. It was great.
Thank you.
And they fit perfectly in any genre. Because you have one where they're in the desert. You have Simone in this red Sonia outfit, and they're walking through the desert, and they come across a magic carpet. But it fits perfectly. And the other thing I love about it is the humor is very good-hearted. They poke fun at the situations that they're in. And I just love it. It's
Yeah, I want this to be relatively all ages. I always say, like ages 10 on up.
Mhm.
So 10-year-old can read it, have a good time, and get some of the bad jokes and all that sort of stuff, and it's just kind of silly. While adults who read it are probably getting a few of the other references that the kids aren't even noticing they're missing, like or just some of the games you can play with it. Like one of the stories I wrote, is it's sort of like one of the game is how many Humphrey Bogart movie titles can you find written into this detective adventure? It's like I'm not telling anyone to go look for it, but I'm saying it's there. And if you happen to notice that they're mentioning Casablanca and the Maltese Falcon and all this other
Yes.
stuff, and it's like how many or I did a story called Monster Mia, the Transylvanian adventure I mentioned,
Mhm.
and part of the fun is how many ABBA song titles can you find worked into the dialogue?
Oh my God. That is great.
Yeah, I just want to have fun. I mean, the world just needs more fun, and
Yes.
there are enough other people who can write all the horror and the dark and all that sort of thing. And it's like me, no, I want people to laugh and have a good time and just give them something light and silly and
Yes.
and some good chuckles. So yeah, this. I mean, Simone Ajax are my favorite thing to do. I mean,
Mhm.
yes, I've been very lucky. I've actually been very lucky to have like you mentioned some of the other things I worked on, like Simpsons for 18 years, which was a great
Yes.
experience, or Fables for 10 years and things like
Yes.
that. So I've been very lucky to do a lot of these things, but always, even before I went professional and all the way to today, 34 years later,
Mhm.
this is still, Simone and Ajax are still my favorite thing.
That is great. I want to make one more comment before I start moving around about the Kickstarter. Um,
Yeah.
I love your art. It's
Thanks.
amazing. It really is. Um,
Thank you.
and I'm going to say, please don't take offense to this, but I love Ajax's face. It's simply drawn,
Mhm.
but yet you can clearly read his expressions, in different situations. And he's like, what he's thinking. You can tell what he's thinking, or he's like, it's great. And it's just simple enough where you can get a good laugh, you know what it is, or you can get a good laugh of his expression, and it's great. And I love how you draw Simone and the backgrounds. Because the one where I think they're in the desert, they go to like they're flying on that carpet, and they're going through the like an Arabian city, because it looks like one of those 1930s movies of this is what an Arabian city would look like. I love the details to that.
Thanks.
It's great. And um this is your passion project. Like you
It,
said, you love these
it is.
characters. You love putting them in fun situations, and it really comes out through the pages. It really does.
Yeah, yeah, I just, like I said, I just want it to be fun. I want it to be silly,
Mhm.
and I mean, and I have fun with all these different settings. I mean, it keeps it fresh and interesting for me, instead
Yes.
of always being the same settings, the same outfits. It's like, no, I get to put Ajax in a little pith helmet, and or something like that, or he puts on a little Viking hat. I mean, that's something people keep asking me for, is someday to do a stuffed Ajax, and all those stretch goals will be extra hats for Ajax. Little fedora,
Oh
things like
God. Yes.
little deer stalker. You know?
Um, Before I
But
start
yeah,
talking,
oh
I'm
no,
sorry.
I was gonna say yeah, but I know I was going to say yeah, no, the old movies, you mentioned the old movies, and it's like that it's kind of like that. And it's like, yeah, no, those are definitely an influence on me. I mean, I love those old movies, and you'll find definitely lots of things like that in these books. If you like some of those old adventure type movies. I mean, I tend to watch more black and white movies than I do any other kind of movies.
Mhm.
Old vintage movies. So it's definitely part of the DNA in these characters. Uh,
It,
I
it,
don't I don't it's like I don't know if you saw the quote that I got from Bill Sienkiewicz
yes, I
for it.
wrote it down. Um, yes, I did, and hopefully I got this correct. And Bill Sienkiewicz, of course, everyone knows he's an amazing artist. He's done work on Elektra, Moon Knight, and a number of things. Um, and he said, it's going to be a long quote. If I were to say that Andrew Pepoy's Simone and Ajax is a wildly inventive, smart, delightful comic series that brings to mind the best of Looney Tunes, buddy comedies, fantasy, film noir, and adventure films from bygone eras channeled through the brilliant mind and hand of a master cartoonist, all of that would be completely true. It would also still not come anywhere near describing how much sheer fun Andrew Pepoy's Simone and Ajax actually is. I absolutely love it. That is nice.
It was that I was, I mean, that's more of a testimonial than a quote, than a blurb, I mean, I was so thrilled when I got that from Bill. I mean, like, I was talking to Bill at San Diego last summer, and all of a sudden he just says, "Hey, if you need a blurb for your next book, let me know." I didn't even have to ask him. And I mean, Bill is, if you've never met Bill, he is one of the nicest guys in comics.
Yes.
He's just so friendly, so outgoing around the crowds. I know, like so outgoing around his fans. He really appreciates all the people who love his work, and so it's like I didn't even have to ask him, and I was like, wow, yes, I'd love that. And then I saw him again at New York Comic Con. I said, I'm going to take you up on that offer. And so I sent him like the PDF I sent you with the older stuff, and I sent him the book from last year, and just said, yeah, just whatever you can come up with, and he sent me that, and like I said, it was far beyond what I could have hoped for, and he's just, like I said, I mean, I find it surreal that I'm, actually like friends with Bill Sienkiewicz at this point, because I still remember, I actually did a post on this on Facebook recently about how, like in 2 weeks, in 2 weeks, again around that 4th of July, because that's always when the Chicago Comic Con was around the old Chicago Comic Con was the 4th of July. In about 2 weeks, it will be the 40th anniversary of the first time I met Bill, when he was a professional, suddenly becoming a superstar because of Moon Knight and all that. And I was a 14-year-old kid. Going to my very first big comic book convention, because I grew up in a small town in Michigan, and going down to Chicago in 1983 for the con was was huge for me. It was like, and I had brought tons of comics for people to sign, and I had I brought stuff for Howard Chaykin, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, Trevor Von Eden, John Byrne, all these other people who were at the show who I was a fan of, and then I ran into Bill Sienkiewicz, and I went up to him and I told him I loved his work, but I didn't know he was going to be there. And I didn't have anything for him to sign. And he saw my sketchbook there, and he was like, "Is that your sketchbook?" I was like, "Yeah." And he just sort of grabs my sketchbook, and he just whips out this ballpoint pen doodle of quick sketch of Moon Knight, and signs it and hands it to me. And he was just, I mean, and that's the thing. He was that really nice, great Bill then 40 years ago, and he's still this really nice, great, giving Bill now. And I just, I'm like, I know I'm sort of gushing, but it's just sort of like, it's surreal to me that I am now friends with him all these years later, and that but that it's also just so I don't know, in a way heartwarming that he's so nice and helpful and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I do still, even though I've been doing this 34 years, I do still find it a little surreal when I'm hanging out with my childhood artistic heroes and stuff like that. Like just this past weekend, I got to see Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, who I also met for the first time at that 1983 show, and he was very, very nice to me then. And he's still again one of the other nicest guys at comics. If you had to make a top 10 list of the nicest guys in comics, Jose and Bill would be on that list. And it's just I feel extremely fortunate to have been getting to do these comics and actually like get to be friends with these people.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is great.
Yeah. Oh, and another thing on the Kickstarter, since we were talking, I should mention, if anyone's interested, it's not just the book that's available. There are lots of other reward levels.
Yes.
And I often get requests for commissions. I am very fortunate that most of the time I am too busy to be doing commissions at home because I'm doing something else. Like right now, I'm drawing a mini series. But the only 2 times I do commissions are at conventions. So I always pre-book for those. But the other time I do them is during a Kickstarter. Is you can order commission and Kickstarter combo. And so that's something I just want to mention to people. If you've ever wanted a commission from me and you're not able to get to a convention that I'm at, and you're trying to figure out how to do this, well, if you back the Kickstarter right now, there are a limited number of commission level spots.
Yes.
And you can go and get that, and you get to pick the character of your choice. And as I always say, if you pick if your choice is Simone, you can get a second character free as long as it's Ajax. Or vice versa. And so yeah, I just want to mention there's that, and there's other reward levels. There's mystery box level.
Yes.
There are other art rewards, though. I think every, like, where you could get an original cover. Like I had several original covers and pinups and things like that of not just Simone Ajax, but of Katie Keene or of Yaya Han and stuff like that. And I think, as of my last checking, I think everything except for one of the Simone Ajax pinups has already been claimed. So I'm very lucky on that. But there is still one Simone Ajax pinup. So there's usually art rewards, and even in your mystery box, you get some art. Every mystery box contains something drawn by me. It might just be some quick sketch I did in the office. It might be a rough for a cover, it might be a thumbnail for a page, but it is something that I drew and I will sign, and you get that along with, in your mystery box, along with a bunch of other comics by me, comics by other people. Other things. You never know what's going to be in the mystery box. It might be a T-shirt, might be a DVD, might be an old pulp magazine from the 1930s.
That is so cool. And I'm going to go back to the commission sketch reward level, because correct me if I'm wrong, that reward level is the $130 reward tier, if I remember correctly.
Right. So you get the book.
That's a great deal.
You get the book signed and with a doodle in the book. Anyone who gets an art reward gets a signed and doodled book with it as well. And so so you get the book and you get your commission. So and a 9x12 in ink usually with gray tones as well. And so you can pick. People last time people were picking Red Sonja, Dawn Star for the Legion of Superheroes, Dazzler. But some people picked the Golden Age Sandman. There were characters I'd never heard of, and I had to go look up reference for them. But yeah, you get to pick.
And I'm just trying to clarify for the listeners is that these are full figure commissions, right? Not just headshots or anything.
Right. No, these are full figure 9x12, 9x12 commissions. And if you go, like, if you were to go scroll on my Facebook or Instagram pages, because I'm on Facebook, it's facebook.com/Andrew Pepoy for my fan page, or on Instagram, which is @Andrew Pepoy. You can scroll it through and you can see like what my commissions look like. And I posted a few examples on the campaign page, but also you can scroll through and see like the stuff I've been doing at conventions in recent weeks and get an idea what it is I do. And I mean you can, and here's the thing, if you're looking at something on the page and you're not sure exactly if it's like what you want, or if there's like or if you want like some combo rewards that's not there, just email me, message me through the campaign page, and through my Facebook fan page or through Instagram, and just say, hey, I'm wondering if we can work something out on this, and I will work out a custom reward for you. I did that. I've done a couple of those where people are getting a sort of a custom reward that isn't listed on the page, where they're buying the book and they're getting something different. Like someone wanted a very particular kind of art reward, a very particular art reward commission kind of thing, and we worked out a deal. And he backed the commission level plus extra to get this extra bit of the thing.
That is so cool, Andrew. That is so cool that you're offering all this, and then also too you're going, hey, if there's something you can't find, email me. Let's see what we can work out for you.
I can't always promise, but I can't promise that we can figure it out. But if I can make it happen, I want to make it happen, because I want happy readers and happy fans, and I want to be there for them, because I really appreciate the chance to finally get to do this. I mean, this is like I said, my favorite thing to do, and I'm grateful that not only have I had a career in comics, but that now I'm getting to spend even more time doing the kind of comics I got into comics to make in the first place. Yeah.
Before I talk about two reward tiers, there is one special. Yaya Han, the famous cosplayer. How did that become one of the tiers? I mean, do you know her, or
I have never met her. Lion Forge, the publisher Lion Forge, that is now part of Oni. So they at one point had a comic book based on her, and I'd met the Lion Forge guys early on when they were just starting out, and we got talking, and we talked about several different projects, and one of the ones that did happen was they asked, do you want to do a cover for Yaya Han's, comic book, Wondrous? And so I did that, and Yaya must have liked it enough because she approved it. So I actually didn't end up having to really. I think I only had to make one minor revision on it. So that's always nice. Especially with those likeness books, they can want a lot of different changes. But nope, she wanted just one little tweak, and and did the comic. But I have not actually ever met her.
Okay, all right.
And someone just this past weekend at Heroes Con, came to the table and wanted that piece, and so figured it out for them, and that way they didn't have to pay shipping on it. I went in right on the spot at the convention and changed the price of the tier, so that they could get the Yaya Han cover and not have to pay shipping on it.
Wow, that is Andrew. That is really nice of you to do that.
Well, no, I mean, why should they have to pay shipping if they're like picking it up and walking away from the table with it?
That's true, yeah. So, all right. Now, for listeners, because I've seen this, the $150 tier. You know which tier I'm talking about, the rewards one.
Lunch with me.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if you are in the Chicago area, or feel like coming to the Chicago area, we can figure out a time and place to meet, and we can have lunch and talk comics or whatever it is you want to talk about for a little while. We can. I'm in the well-known neighborhood of Chicago, Wicker Park. So a lot of nice places around here. I'm sure we can find something that whoever buys that would agree on, and basically, you meet me and I'm buying you lunch because you already bought it, kind of buying the reward level for me, but then I end up buying you lunch and I give you your book and I'll sign it and doodle it for you there on the spot, and we just hang out for a little while.
Cool.
Someone just backed that this morning. Someone just picked that this morning.
Well, that is so cool.
Yeah, there are 3 spots for that. That's a very limited reward. There's only 3 spots for that. And so, people can, so I guess there's 2 left. And so, anyone who wants to do that can do that. It's like, I mean, if you're in California, I can't come to California to meet you, but if you can come to Chicago, I'm here.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Now this is the one. So Mike, if you're listening, and this is Mike Myers, and I want to give Mike Myers a big shout out. Mike, thank you very much for helping setting up this interview between me and Andrew. Thank you very much. Now, Mike, I am joking on this part. Is there a special Mike Myers tier?
There actually is. By circumstance, not by design, but yes, there is in a way a special Mike Myers tier. Now, Mike, for those of you who don't know Mike is a huge comics fan, loves so many comics. He's just so enthusiastic about the stuff, and always posting about them. And he has been one of my constant supporters for many years, and I always appreciate seeing him. He's always picking up commissions, and he's just always been supportive of my work, whatever I was working on. And so say for example, like say this past weekend, I was at Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is one of the best shows, one of the absolute best shows. If you've never been to a Comic-Con, go to check out Heroes Con. If you have been to a Comic-Con and you're like, well, that was it, go to Heroes Con. That's what Heroes Con, like Heroes Con, Baltimore, shows like that are really creator focused shows. They're just such a so great, so fun to be at, and you'll be like, why wasn't I going to shows like this sooner? And it's just so Mike was there, and he booked me for a commission, because like I said, I only do commissions at cons or at Kickstarters. And he, unfortunately, he was the one who I didn't quite get to finish his commission. I'd stayed up till 3:30 in the morning on Saturday night working on commissions to try to get some stuff done. Like there was again another guy who's been a big supporter from Australia who flew over for the show, pretty much just to come to Heroes Con.
Yeah.
And so I had to make sure he got his done, so I didn't have to ship his home.
Yes.
And I really thought I could get those last commissions done on Sunday, but in the end, it's like, nope, couldn't quite get Mike's done. I didn't want to rush it, want to make it good. So yes, there is a special Mike Myers level, because in the end, Mike is getting 2 commissions with his, because he booked the commission through the Kickstarter, and he's going to get that commission that I didn't get to do at HeroesCon. So he's going to get 2 commissions. And I mean, fortunately, he is a really nice guy, and he understood, and and so I will get him both his commissions. Mike, if you're listening, you're definitely getting both your commissions, and I'll be able to really focus on them, since I'll be doing them at home and stuff like that, and I'll get you something real nice.
That is so cool. Okay, now on Word Balloon, and I'm gonna say, let me give a shout out to John Suntress of Word Balloon, also Ryland Grant and David Avalone. Listeners, if you guys want to check out more interviews with with Andrew, check out John Suntress's Word Balloon. That one just came out on June 13th. Or Ryland Grant and David Avalone, The Writer's Block, episode 92, that came out on June 16th. So if you guys get a chance, please check out those great interviews. Andrew, on Word Balloon, you already mentioned that you're working on your next Kickstarter. For our listeners, may I ask, what is your passion project that you're working on for your next one?
I will answer that in just a moment, because while you're plugging other podcasts, do you mind if I mention a couple others that are coming up that I'm going to be on?
Fine, yes.
Okay, yeah, because I just figure I want to do that real quick. Yeah. So, I mean, unfortunately, by the time anyone hears this, they'll have missed it, but they can still watch it. I'm going to be tonight live on the 4C Comics YouTube channel, live sketching. And doing headshots for people. You can request whoever you want. So with Ken Carson of 4C Comics. So I'm just saying, it probably is not my last time on this show. Ken and I've talked, and I'll probably be on there again in the future. So keep an eye on that. If you missed tonight, I'm sure you can watch the recorded version, and then keep an eye out for when I'm doing that again, because that's, I guess, a third way I'm actually starting to do commissions is through these live sketch shows. Wow. But then I'm going to be on Comic Besties tomorrow night on their show live. But again, depending on when this goes up, it probably might have missed the live, but it's going to be up on YouTube for Comic Besties. So keep an eye out for that, and then. And then I will soon be doing one for Pop Culture Squad, but I'm not sure the date on that one. So.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, but now you asked about this other project. So
yes.
So anyway, yeah. So Simone and Ajax are not my only creation. I have a number of different things, and one that I've wanted to do for years, and even did self-publish a book with them with her about 10 years ago, is a character named Monica Moon, about an Earth girl who ends up getting kidnapped by aliens and ends up in outer space. And it turns out outer space really was like this old movie serials her grandfather used to show her, with the thin spaceships and the bubble helmets. And so she's stranded there in space and having all these adventures with this retro outer space setting. And it's just, again, I'm trying to have fun with it. Again, nothing dark and serious, nothing too dark and serious. A little more serious than Simone Ajax, because there is some real peril and things like that. There are bad guys, But yeah, Monica's going to be the next, is at the moment planned to be the next Kickstarter I will be doing after this collection of all the old black and white Simone and Ajax comics. So this new Monica will be an all original book. I don't know specifically how long it'll be, but I'm estimating somewhere around like 90 pages, something like that. And it'll be all original, all new. And just so if you like that old retro space kind of thing, and just like good swashbuckling adventure with a very Dave Stevens inspired heroine, because he was definitely one of my inspirations in the design. That's what I'm going for. So it's a slightly more still fun looking, but a little more realistic than Simone and Ajax kind of thing.
And then also too, because Monica Moon is also another influence was from the Buck Rogers newspaper serial, because I remember we talked about that a little bit before we started recording. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I mean, I was very lucky when I was a kid. I lived in a small town in Michigan, Holland, Michigan, and for a library in the late 70s in the Midwest, they actually had a really good selection of books on comics. Now there weren't a whole lot of them at that time. Yeah. So they had a good chunk of them. They had a pretty fair amount of the ones that ever had been available. So I was very lucky as a kid to get exposed to many especially classic newspaper adventure strips that probably a lot of kids weren't getting to see. So I got to read Terry and the Pirates and Flash Gordon and Prince Valiant and all that sort of thing. And one of the things they had there was this giant, which you can still find, I think it's called The Collected Works of Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. And it's this huge book. And I was, lucky to get to read that. And, or I even, like, after school, I would go down there because the World Encyclopedia of Comics by Maurice Horn was a reference book. And so you couldn't check it out. So my grade school was just a couple blocks from the library. So I'd go down there, after school, maybe 2-3 times a week, and just kept reading it. I was trying to read the whole thing from cover to cover. And they noticed this 10-year-old kid checking out everything that had to do with comics here. And so they asked me, would you like to meet a real cartoonist? And they arranged for me to meet up with at the library with Rick Yeager, who had drawn the Buck Rogers newspaper strip from 1933 to 58. He lived in another small town nearby. And so, we met up, and I was, and Rick was, again, a really nice guy, really generous with his time and information. Because, most 10-year-olds don't get to talk to a real cartoonist and find out how it's actually done.
Yes.
And I did. And he, we met at the library, and we got together a few more, a number of other times over the years. And he would, we would talk on the phone, and he was just really, really, so I really learned a lot about comics from him. Now, I would say it was not his art style that I was so influenced by, but it was his work ethic. And I think that's one reason why I survived in comics, is I picked up on his work ethic. If you just get it done, you make sure it happens. And that, like I said, I think is one reason why I survived, because because editors knew that if they gave me a job, it was going to be done on time.
Yes. Yeah.
Now I'll go off on a side note on that. Yes, I will fully admit that this previous Simone Ajax book took a lot longer than I expected, but because there were so many things I didn't know about self-publishing. That Lemmings and Tigers and Bears was my first really self-published book, and I just, so many lessons to be learned that I didn't even know I needed to learn. As much as I tried to prepare, things came up, or like I needed an eye operation actually in the middle of producing the book, and so things. So I know it got slowed down, but I stuck to it, and I made it the best book I could possibly make it, and I got it out there, and I kept everyone informed as to what was going on along the way, and everybody seemed to be happy in the end. And like say with this new Kickstarter for What's Black and White, the material's already done, so that's gonna say that's gonna make sure that we can get this done a lot faster. So yes, I do want to make sure for anyone who's listening and say, oh, but wait a minute, you were late on your last Kickstarter. And it's like, yes, I fully admit that, and I'm only human. That happens once in a while. But I did get it out, and I did fulfill it, and everyone's happy. And same case on this one. I'm going to do my best to get it out on time. And like I said, the entire book is pretty much done, except for some digital cleanup on some of the pages, and I'm working on that. And then we'll get it off to the printer. And the way how the world is these days, printing is a little unpredictable. So as far as how long it's going to take, but soon, but I'm going to do my best to try to have it back and in everyone's hands within not so many months.
Andrew, I have to say, it is so incredible to hear how you got into comics at a very early age and influenced by comic book creators. Like you said, you met a cartoonist when you're 10 years old, and what really stuck with you on that is his work ethic. And then along the way, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it just sounds like you've adapted and you've grown too, because like you said, it's like your last Simone and Ajax book, that was your very first Kickstarter. It was a learning experience. There were things that came up, but then once you got through that, now you're working on this one, even though the work is already done. You know what to expect and how to work out the avoid
Right. I learned I learned a lot of lessons, and I think I'm going into this much more savvy, much more ready to make this actually happen the way it's supposed to happen. But I always, as I said in like there's always that last little paragraph on every Kickstarter page, the risks and challenges and stuff like that. And as I said in there, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, like even on the production of that last book, not only eye operation, but it's like I didn't have COVID, but it's like during, I was working on it during the pandemic. But I somehow, even being a hermit, staying at home, I still managed to keep getting strep, or something like that. So so those things slow you down. So I mean, yes, something like that can happen. But overall, I've learned a lot of lessons, and I think this one should go a lot more smoothly than the last one. And I will keep hopefully getting better, because, like I said, after this one, I plan on doing Monica Moon.
Yes.
After Monica Moon, I plan on reissuing the now long out of print IDW Simone Ajax collection, and this time in hardcover, so that in the end, you will have what's black and white, which is volume 1, the IDW version, which was simply called The Adventures of Simone Ajax. I'm gonna have to come up with a new title for that, over that one, and that one will now be in hardcover, and then there'll be Lemmings and Tigers and Bears. So you'll have your nice three hardcover set of everything that's ever been done with Simone Ajax so far. I definitely, if these Kickstarters keep going decently and all, I definitely hope that I can keep doing more Simone Ajax. I hope to do an entire. I already, haven't written them, but I already know the 3 genres I want to play with and poke fun at for the 4th volume.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so I have plans, and again, I have other characters too. So you never know. I'm hoping, Kickstarter really has let me take control of what I want to do.
Yes.
And because it's like I often before we were always at the whims of publishers and things like that, and so and a bad deal or just some other problem or something. And so this time it's like, if something goes wrong, well, yes, unfortunately it is my fault. But if it all goes right, I can make this happen and get some good fun comics out of people.
Yes. Andrew, I'm going to start wrapping things up. So 2 more questions. Actually, 3 more questions.
Okay.
What is your next convention appearance, either in late July or August? Or rest of the year, I should say.
I have a whole lot of, I'm doing more conventions this year than I ever have in any given year. And that's because I am now a self-publisher, so I have to get out there more. I used to do about 6 conventions a year. This year, I currently have 13 conventions I'm committed to, and 1 more hopefully in the works. So I've only done 3 so far, so I still have like 10 more conventions at least coming up. So I mean, I this coming weekend, I will be not at a comics convention, but I'll be at the American Library Association convention here in Chicago.
That's nice.
Pushing Simone Ajax. I figure it's here. It's easy. I can just drive over there. It's not like I have to get a hotel room or a plane ticket or something. So it's a very convenient thing. So I'll be at that this coming weekend. The 2nd weekend in July, I will be at the Wyoming Pop Culture Con in Casper, Wyoming. I've never been to Wyoming, but yeah, I'll be at that, and along with my good friend Gene Ha, who is going to be sitting there next to me at this show. Well, it's like I ran into Gene at the Yeah Yeah Yeahs concert the other night. We were like, yep, I'll see you in Wyoming. We couldn't quite get together. He was in the middle of a row. I was like trying to get to him. He was like stuck in the middle of a row, so we were sort of yelling back and forth to each other, in between the opening act and the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, and we're like, well, I'll see you in Wyoming, okay, and so yeah. So I'm doing that, and then 2 weeks after that, I will be doing San Diego Comic-Con. I will be in the small press section, right behind the main publisher section, because I want to make this clear to anyone who's listening that it's the small press section behind the publisher section, not Artist Alley, because I had a lot of people go looking for me in Artist Alley last year when I was over in the small press, and I'll be at table M13. So come find me there. A week after that, it's going to be a fast turnaround. 4 days after I get back from Comic-Con, I will be at Terrificon at the Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut, which I hear is a fantastic show. People have been telling me for years, "Oh, Andrew, you got to do this show." And so so fortunately this year, I've been invited, and I will be at that. And then 2 weeks after that, I will be at Fan Expo Chicago, here in Chicago. Don't know my table info there or anything, but yeah, I'll be there. And then in September, I will be at Baltimore Comic-Con.
Mhm.
which is one of my favorite shows. And then a week after that, I'll be at Retro Expo Dallas. So that'll be my very first convention appearance in Texas.
Mhm.
So if you're down in Texas and you've been saying like, "Hey Andrew, why don't you ever come into Texas?" If you're anywhere around Dallas or want to feel like driving over there, I'm gonna be doing my very first Texas convention.
Mhm.
And then in October will be New York Comic Con.
Mhm.
I do not yet know if I'm setting up at New York Comic Con or not. I don't have confirmation on that, but I will be there in some
Mhm.
shape or form. Even if
Mhm.
it's just wandering around.
Yeah.
You can always stop me and have me sign your book. Maybe I can arrange to do a signing at some booth at somewhere at some point.
Mhm.
But then in November I will be doing the Grand Rapids, Michigan Comic Con.
Mhm. Yes.
That's my old stomping grounds from where I grew up. Holland's not far
Mhm.
from there. Grand Rapids was the big city for us. And then the weekend after that, in November, I will be at the Twin Tiers Comic Con in Elmira, New York.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, well, hey, they invited me. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
that's the
Oh
thing.
yes. Yeah.
They invited me, and I'm happy to do these. I mean, that's the thing. It's sort of like if anybody's like, "Oh, Andrew, why aren't you coming to this show or that show?" Tell the people who run the show,
Yes.
contact me, invite me.
Yes.
I'm happy to go, and
Mhm.
almost anywhere anyone wants me to go
Yes.
for one of these shows if they want, if they invite me. And it's easy to get a hold of me. There's a contact button on both the pepoy.com and
Mhm.
simoneajax.com websites. You can, message me through my Facebook fan page or my Instagram page.
Mhm.
And that goes for anyone who wants to back the Kickstarter or anything like that, or if you're
Yes.
curious about how to get the books during the Kickstarter or even after the Kickstarter. I can steer you to the right place to go. And again, once again, for the Kickstarter, again, search Pepoy on Kickstarter, it'll
Mhm.
come up, or just go to pepoy.com or simoneajax.com, and
Mhm.
the first thing you find on the page is the link to go and check out the Kickstarter. And if you miss the Kickstarter, like I said, it's going to be available on Indiegogo through the Indiegogo in demand program. And so that's sort of like my shop after
Yeah.
this. So yeah, you can check it out.
All right. Two more questions because I'm now really wrapping this up. I know you mentioned about conventions and if you want someone to invite you to their convention. This leads me to a question of, have you and your family ever been to Hawaii?
We have not. That is a place I would like to go at some point and check out. I mean, this is going to, sound stereotypical. My first exposure to Hawaii was like the Brady Bunch episode where
Oh
they go
yeah.
to Hawaii.
Yes.
But no, I have not been. And but since certainly growing up, it's like there's so much stuff talk about Hawaii back in the 70s growing up. So
Oh yes.
it's always a place I'd like to visit, but it's just never quite worked out. A couple times, it's been discussed, but just hasn't unfortunately worked out yet.
Mhm.
But one of these days I'll get to Hawaii. I plan on it.
And I'm planning to, because we have a couple conventions, comic book conventions. I'll submit your name. Hopefully they invite you guys to come down. That'd be nice.
That'd be great. I'd be happy to come. I'd be happy to be there. Probably tack on a few extra days and enjoy the islands.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing with most conventions is I don't get to see where it is I'm really going. I get to
Yes.
see, the hotel and the convention center and whatever's in between the two. And that's oftentimes all I get to see of a town. But sometimes, like for Hawaii, I would do this same thing as like, I did a show in Belgium a few years ago and I tacked on some extra days and did a little travel in Europe, and
Yes.
when I can, I certainly would love to, come and see that. And Hawaii's a place I would definitely make sure I took some extra days to get to see,
Oh,
what was going on.
Mhm. All right, last question. Any closing words to our listeners?
I just want to say thanks to everyone who has, supported my work over the last, not just my 34 years of being a professional, the last 40 years of just even doing fanzines. I did my first fanzine 42 years ago, and when I was 12 years old, and I've been extremely lucky. No, I'm not one of the stars, and I often describe myself as Joe Comic Book Artist or the also with. I may not be the headliner, but I'm that also with, who you also can enjoy seeing, and I'm happy with that. I'm happy that I've gotten to be part of this comics that I love so much. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who's ever bought one of my comics, and I especially want to thank anyone who has or will at some point in the future support Simone Ajax or any of my Kickstarters for any of my projects, Monica Moon or anything else I happen to do, because you really are helping me make this. And it's when I talk about what's going on, when I send updates to the backers, it's like, we are doing this. This is I am fully aware that I cannot do this without the readers and people who buy the stuff. So this is a we project. This isn't, we're doing this together. We're making fun comics. And so I just want to say thank you to everybody. And I hope, if you don't know my stuff, if you don't know my work, that you will go to pepoy.com or simoneandajax.com and check out, what I'm working on, and find, and even if Simone and Ajax isn't your thing, maybe there's something else that'll be your thing, and see what I'm doing, and hopefully, discover some good new comics. And so I'd love that if you did.
Andrew, mahalo. Thank you very much. Thank you in Hawaiian. Just thank you very much for your time. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to interview you. I wish you all the success with your Kickstarter campaign. I also want to give a big thanks to Mike for setting up this interview. Also, I want to give a thanks to John Suntress of Word Balloon, because I got some of the information from his interview when you were on his show. Now, if you are a new comic book fan or lifelong comic book fan, please check out Andrew's Kickstarter, Simone and Ajax, What's Black and White and Red All Over. This campaign is live and will end on July 13th. Andrew, I'm being serious on this part. Also, listeners, please consider, if you're considering backing this project, think about giving this as a gift to someone who loves comics. I've read some of the stories. It's great fun. And the art is amazing. And the reason why I'm saying that is because sometimes it's hard to find, a gift for a comic book fan. And I think this is going to be the perfect gift for comic book fans who just love to just have fun reading comics. I want to thank Drew, the co-host of Comics for Fun and Profit, for putting this episode together. Drew, thank you very much for all your hard work behind the scenes. And if you are a new listener, please check out new episodes of Comics for Fun and Profit that comes out every Saturday. And I want to thank you, the listeners. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening to this episode. Until next time, guys. Aloha.
This episode of Comics for Fun and Profit is brought to you by Threadless. More importantly, the Comics Fun Profit shop on Threadless at comicsfunprofit.threadless.com, where you can find about half a dozen different designs, plenty of Comics for Fun and Profit themed merch. If you just want a t-shirt, you're good, and if you want sweatshirts or other swaggy items, and you can get anything. Phone cases, shower curtains, it runs the gamut. Skateboards, I think. So check that out. We've already sold several. We're excited about the fact that the folks that want to support us in this way are able to and wear our merch out in the real world. That's pretty exciting stuff. So get your Comics for Fun and Profit branded items at comicsfunprofit.threadless.com.